saying I believe every alien story that's been told, but I absolutely believe that we are dealing with a very real phenomenon when we're dealing with aliens. They are devils, evil angels, beasts, and so on. So back to the article. The hearings will occur this week at the National Press Club. Will feature some 30 hours of testimony on the possible existence of extraterrestrials and be recorded for a documentary film. Around 36 researchers and academics are expected to testify. And I'll just say, if any of this group's listening to me, I'll come talk at your meeting. How's that? Participants will include ex-Senator Mike Gravel of Alaska, Lynn Woolsey of California, Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, Michigan, Darlene Hooley of Oregon. So far, all these are Democrats. Roscoe Bartlett, Maryland, Republican. Merrill Cook, Utah, Republican. The event is being sponsored by the Paradigm Research Group. Paradigm. Like we're going to shift here. A lobbying group for alien research. According to the Detroit News, the organization is paying Kilpatrick $20,000 plus expenses for her participation, although the former congresswoman said she has always been interested in the possibility of extraterrestrial life. It's good to be here, she told the paper. We're excited. I've been reading and watching, and so I'm looking forward to the week's activities. And so I'm going to ask everybody out there, just kind of help me keep an eye on this. That's got my interest. It really does. And I appreciate Wayne sending that to me and reminding me of it last night. You pray for Wayne today, and I'm going to go up to see him. And you know what? Bless that guy. He is such a good friend of, number one, me. He's such a good friend of our church, and he is such a wonderful supporter of this ministry. He did not want me to know about his surgery because he didn't want me to abdicate the show today to go be with him, because I would have. I would have sent out a tweet sometime this morning saying, I'm tending to my church business with a guy in surgery. I'm not going to be there today. And I don't boast about this. I don't make a big deal about it. But when it comes to the people in this church, they got dibs. These people are my friends. They're my people. And when they need their pastor is going to be there for them. And I think you all understand that. So anyway, we're going to pray for old Waynesy today. Bless his heart, and I'm going to run up to see him sometime this evening. Let's see here. What else? What if I can make somebody mad today? Here's Michelle sent me this. Banning homeschooling does not violate the United States, does not violate rights. And this is from Eric Holder, U.S. Attorney General. Having immersed, let's see here, editors, this is Michael Ferris, the editorial guy. Having immersed myself for about 8 days in writing a brief for the Ramecki family, a German homeschooling family who fled to the United States for political asylum, I wanted to share some insights I gained into the view of our own government toward the rights of homeschooling parents in general. And let me just say this before I move on, reading this. Homeschooling or private schooling, I'm going to, and I've said this before, and I'm going to stick to what I've said earlier. If you cannot homeschool, and I will say not everybody can. We ran a Christian school here for 14 years. I know a little bit about it, and I have seen parents who really genuinely homeschooled their children. Some friends of ours sent their daughter here. She had been homeschooled. They wanted her to graduate from a school, and so she graduated from here. And she worked. I mean, that girl worked. Man, she had an outstanding, strong work ethic. We didn't have to tell her to do anything. She just took off with it. That was homeschooling done right. I've also seen homeschooling done bad. I had a student here supposed to be in 8th grade. When we tested him, 5th grade level. Not even beyond 5th grade level. And so I don't believe that everybody can homeschool or private school. Private school is expensive. Not everybody can handle that. If there is no alternative for you other than public education, here's what you can and you should do. You should be very proactive in your child's development. Don't you dare leave it to the public school and say, well, they're pretty good down there. I think I can trust them. Let me tell you, you probably don't know who the sodomites are in your child's school. You probably don't know that. But they're there, and they're watching your daughter or they're watching your son. And they have a goal to twist that child's head around without you knowing about it. And there's more agendas than you can shake a stick at in a public school. And so I am a staunch supporter of private education, homeschool education. And if neither one of those can work out for you, then you do everything you have in your power. Turn that TV off when that kid comes home and just spend time with that child, drawing that child to your heart. That's the key right there. And then read Deuteronomy 6. Thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and talk about them in thy going out and thy coming in. Let your children know that you believe the Bible. They'll follow you. They'll follow you. When they know that you're going to take a stand, those kids are going to follow you. Anyway, the U.S. law of asylum allows a refugee to stay in the United States permanently if he can show that he is being persecuted for one of several specific reasons. Among these are persecutions for religious reasons and persecution of a particular social group. In most asylum cases, there's some guesswork necessary to figure out the government's true motive, but not in this case. Supreme Court of Germany declared that the purpose of the German ban on homeschooling was to, quote, counteract the development of religious and philosophically motivated parallel societies. In other words, the children of Deutschland must be perfectly compatible in their philosophy with the socialistic government of Germany. That's what I think they just said. The article says this sounds elegant, perhaps, but at its core, it's a frightening concept. This means that the German government wants to prohibit people who think differently from the government. I've just said that. On religious or philosophical grounds from growing and developing into a force in society. And what you see in Europe, you're going to see here in America before too long. It's coming this way. So it is thought control, it is belief control, it is totalitarianism dressed up in politically correct lingo. By the way, while I got this in my mind, talking about thought control and totalitarianism, North Korea, it is probably the worst place in the world to live. Because if you show even a minuscule degree of dissent against the government and Kim Jong-un, you are thrown into a labor camp. There is a tour guide, a South Korean tour guide, Christian man, from what the news reports were saying. I got up this morning, turned the news on, and they're talking about how North Korea sent this guy to 15 years hard labor in a labor camp. He'll probably not live through it, because they accused him and suspected him probably of trying to witness and profess Jesus Christ. As soon as I heard that, I said a prayer for the man. And I encourage you, pray for this guy that's in that prison camp. Now, North Korea is probably just playing games. They'll probably use this guy as a way to get $50 million out of the United Nations, because that's all that Kim Jong-un cares about. He doesn't really want to destroy the world. He knows that he'll lose probably most of his country, if not all, if he gets into a war with everybody. So that's not really what he wants. What he really wants, he wants to force the world to give him money, because that's how his dad did it and his grandpa did it. It's a shakedown, is what it is. But pray for this man that was in prison, and I believe that he was in prison for his faith. The article goes on to say that my goal today is not to belabor the nature of German repression of homeschooling, but rather I seek to reveal the view of the United States government to all of this. The Romekes case is before the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. The case for the government is officially in the name of the Attorney General of the United States. The case is called Romeke versus Holder, Eric Holder. Thus, the brief filed by the U.S. Department of Justice is filed on behalf of the Attorney General himself, hence Barack Obama. Although we can be reasonably certain he has not personally read it. Nonetheless, it is a statement of the position of our government at a very high level. We argued that Germany is a party to many human rights treaties and that contain specific provisions that protect the right of parents to provide an education that is different from the government schools. Parents have the explicit right to give their children an education according to their own philosophy. But apparently, and the article goes on to talk about that, apparently the Attorney General of the United States of America does not agree with that. And he does not agree with that because he is a globalist, he is a communist, a socialist, and he believes that the government should take care of all the children. Parents are mentally insane. Practically every parent that has children has a mental defect because they think that they can raise their children their own way. How dare they have the audacity to think that you can raise your children without government aid and government assistance? How dare they? Folks, in every state in this union, take a stand for homeschooling and private education. Don't back down. I have some friends. I haven't seen them in years, but I know them and I know their work. They work closely in Jefferson City, even though they live in this county. Jefferson City, in case you didn't know, is the capital of the state of Missouri. And they work closely in Jeff City because every year the liberal Democrats in the state of Missouri, in the legislature, will try to introduce some new school standard, some new program that's going to be implemented in the schools in the state of Missouri. When they introduce these bills, they deliberately write the legal language of the bills so that it could probably include private schools and or homeschooling that would have to fall under this certain standard. And these people, along with several others that work there, they monitor this every year. They say we have to be diligent because it's done every year. We have to step in and we have to lobby certain members of the legislature in the state of Missouri to have that language taken out so that private schools and homeschools are specifically withdrawn from these new standards, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to enforce their governmental system into homeschool and private school. And if you do that, then what's the difference between having a homeschool and a public school? None. No difference whatsoever. And so if you hear of something going on in your state that relates to public school or private school and homeschooling, get behind it. Get with it. Could be your kids, could be your grandkids. The public schools right now are not, this is not Leave It to Beaver anymore. This is not the 40s and the 50s when maybe you grew up in or your parents grew up in. It's not that way anymore. I debated even putting this up on the screen. When I had two different people send it to me, and I spent some time covering up most of this. It's a Planned Parenthood